In the dead of night, when the ocean holds its breath, sailors whisper a name they fear more than storms, more than cannon fire, more than death itself. A name that refuses to sink into history, Blackbeard. Some say he died in 1780, but the sea tells another story, because legends don't die, they rise. Before he was the terror of the Caribbean, he was just a man. Edward Teach, a quiet sailor with fierce eyes and an unnatural appetite for danger. As the War of Spanish Succession ended, thousands of sailors like him were left stranded, their skills unwanted. But while others saw despair, Teach saw opportunity. The sea was no longer a battlefield for empires. It was a kingdom waiting for a king. He joined the pirate crew of Captain Benjamin Hornigold, and under that infamous black flag, the ocean began to mold him, shaping him into something monstrous. He wasn't just learning to be a pirate, he was mastering the art of fear. Teach learned everything. He learned how to board a ship in utter silence, a ghost in the dark. He learned how to strike terror into a man's heart before ever striking him with steel. And most importantly, he learned how to command men not with gold, but with sheer, undeniable presence. Then came his transformation. This is where the man died and the nightmare was born. He braided his long black beard into intimidating coils. He wove slow-burning fuses made of hemp and saltpeter into them, and he lit them during battle. Imagine it, a giant of a man, smoke curling around his head like a demonic halo, his eyes blazing with fire, walking through the chaos of musket smoke as if he were a demon made flesh. This was no longer Edward Teach. This was Blackbeard, a living, breathing nightmare carved from fire and salt water. He understood that a pirate's greatest weapon wasn't his cutlass or his pistol, but his reputation. And he was building the most terrifying reputation the world had ever known. His destiny took a legendary turn when he captured a massive French slave ship called La Concorde. For any other pirate, this would have been just another prize. For Blackbeard, it was the key to his empire. He refitted it, turning it into a floating fortress armed with 40 cannons. And he gave it a name that would shake the entire Atlantic to its core, the Queen Anne's Revenge. With this colossal warship, he ruled the West Indies and the American coast. Merchant captains would surrender without a fight, just at the sight of his flag. Navy captains, men tasked with hunting him, hesitated at the sight of his ship. Even other pirates, kings in their own right, stepped aside, but Blackbeard did not just seek riches. He was playing a different game. He sought absolute control, unquestionable dominance, a legacy that would echo for centuries. And he was about to make a move so audacious it had never been attempted before. He decided to blockade the entire port of Charleston, one of the wealthiest cities in the American colonies. But he wasn't after gold, silver, or jewels. He was after medicine. His crew was sick, and he held an entire city hostage for a chest of medical supplies. For a week, Charleston was paralyzed. Ships were captured, wealthy citizens were taken prisoner, and the entire colony trembled, held hostage by a single pirate king. It was a masterclass in psychological warfare. When the medicine finally came, he released his captives completely unharmed. Was he cruel? Yes. Barbaric? Certainly. But was he senseless? Never. Blackbeard was a monster, but he was a monster with a mind sharper than any blade. His legend, however, grew too large to be ignored. Governors in Virginia and the Carolinas panicked. The crown demanded his head. The task of hunting the demon of the sea fell to Lieutenant Robert Maynard of the Royal Navy. Maynard tracked Blackbeard to his hidden lair at Ocracoke Inlet. At dawn, 2 English sloops, smaller and less armed, crept towards the pirates' anchorage. Maynard expected a simple pirate ambush. He found an army. Cannons roared to life, shattering the morning calm. Smoke swallowed the sea. The battle was a brutal, chaotic dance of death. As the ships collided, Blackbeard himself boarded Maynard's deck with the raw fury of a hurricane. The final battle was madness. Swords clashed, sparks flying in the smoky air. Blackbeard, a bandolier of pistols across his chest, fired one after another, clearing the deck around him. Men were thrown screaming into the water. The ship's planks grew slick with blood. It took 5 bullets and 20 deep sword wounds to finally bring the giant to his knees. But even as he fell, witnesses swore his body fought on, that his headless corpse kept swinging its cutlass. They say the sea itself screamed when he finally hit the water. Maynard, to prove his victory, decapitated the pirate and hung his head from the bowsprit of his ship. A grisly trophy. A warning to all who would dare defy the law. But the ocean did not accept this offering. The legend was far from over. To this day, sailors claim that on moonless nights a shadow still sails the Carolina coast. A ship with burning lanterns and a captain whose beard glows with ghostly embers, forever searching for his head. You can kill a man, but you cannot kill a legend. And Blackbeard was born to be eternal. This was the real man, the real monster, the real legend, the pirate who never died. Thanks for watching. If you want to dive deeper into the mysteries of the sea, make sure to subscribe.
We all know the name Blackbeard, but what if I told you the story you think you know is mostly a myth? That the real man, Edward Teach, was far more complex, more cunning, and in some ways even more fascinating than the legend. Today, we're diving deep into the true story of the pirate who never died. We know very little about his early life, but it's believed he was an educated man from a respectable family. He likely served as a privateer for the British during the War of the Spanish Succession, a sort of legal pirate hired by the government to attack enemy ships. With skills perfectly suited for piracy and few legal options, many turned to the sweet trade. Teach joined the crew of the famous pirate captain Benjamin Hornigold, who operated out of the pirate haven of Nassau in the Bahamas. Teach quickly proved himself a capable and ambitious sailor. Hornigold saw his potential and, in 1716, gave him command of his own ship. The student was about to become the master. In 1717, Teach captured a massive French merchant vessel called La Concorde. He renamed it the Queen Anne's Revenge. This wasn't just any ship. It was a floating fortress. Teach armed it with over 40 cannons, transforming it into one of the most powerful pirate vessels to ever sail the Caribbean. With this behemoth under his command, the legend of Blackbeard was truly born. Now, let's talk about the image. The smoking beard, the 6 pistols, the slow-burning fuses tucked under his hat to create a demonic cloud of smoke around his face. Was any of it real? Absolutely. But it wasn't about bloodlust. It was about branding. Blackbeard understood psychological warfare better than anyone. And it worked. ships would often strike their colors the moment they saw his fearsome flag and the demonic figure at the helm. In one of the most audacious acts in pirate history, Blackbeard and his fleet of 4 ships blockaded the port of Charleston, South Carolina. For nearly a week, no ships could enter or leave. One of his crew was likely suffering from a disease, possibly syphilis, and Blackbeard needed the supplies. After a tense standoff, the medicine was delivered. The hostages were released, minus their fancy clothes. But the golden age of piracy was coming to an end. The authorities were cracking down. Just after the Charleston blockade, the Queen Anne's Revenge mysteriously ran aground at Beaufort Inlet, North Carolina. He was soon back to his old ways, operating with the governor's tacit approval. This cozy arrangement didn't sit well with the governor of neighboring Virginia, Alexander Spotswood. Acting outside his legal jurisdiction, Spotswood organized a secret military expedition to hunt down and kill the famous pirate. He hired 2 Royal Navy sloops, the Jane and the Ranger, under the command of Lieutenant Robert Maynard. On November 22nd, 1718, Maynard's ships cornered Blackbeard at Ocracoke Inlet. The battle was legendary. Blackbeard's ship, the Adventure, was outgunned but not outmanned in spirit. The fight devolved into a brutal, close-quarters melee on the deck. According to Maynard's own report, Blackbeard fought like a demon. He engaged Maynard directly in a sword duel. Maynard's sword broke, but one of his men intervened, slashing Blackbeard across the neck. Maynard cut off Blackbeard's head and hung it from the bowsprit of his sloop as a gruesome trophy and a warning to all other pirates. He sailed back to Virginia, the severed head swinging for all to see. So, why do we say he's the pirate who never died? Because his physical death only fueled his immortality. The British authorities had hoped killing Blackbeard would kill the idea of piracy. They were wrong. It did the opposite. Just a year later, a book called A General History of the Robberies and Murders of the Most Notorious Pirates was published. It was filled with sensationalized, dramatic, and often fabricated stories about pirates like Blackbeard, cementing his image as the ultimate outlaw. His legend grew far beyond the man. He became a symbol of rebellion, of freedom, of a life lived on one's own terms, however brutal. The real Edward Teach was a master strategist, a brilliant propagandist, and a shrewd businessman who used fear as his primary weapon. He wasn't a mindless brute. He was a calculated commander who ruled a small but powerful floating kingdom for 2 short, spectacular years. His body may have been left for the crabs at Ocracoke, but his story, the myth of Blackbeard, continues to capture our imaginations, sailing forever on the seas of popular culture. The man is gone, but the legend will truly never die. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the real history of pirates, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the past. Let me know in the comments which historical figure you'd like to see us cover next.